Fake questions, real answers. There's stuff I want to talk about, but I don't want to wait for you to ask me. Dear Colin, what's the best, most remarkable aspect of Derek Carr's new contract? It's not the money, it's the no trade clause. For really talented people, artists, athletes, Wall Streeters, tech superstars, it's not about the annual income. There's a sea of money and they'll always make it. It's the ability to control your future. That's why the great artists have often gone to court to get out of contracts, so they're available to the entire market. Only 8 players in the entire National Football League have the ability to say, no, I'm not going there. Derek Carr, at the end of this contract in 3 years, will have that power. It's not about the money for Derek. Nevada's got no state tax. He's making $35-40 million a year. He had a net worth of $75 million before the contract. But his ability to say, hey, you can't send me to a crappy team. What he's doing is protecting his legacy. That's the power of what Russell Wilson had. Russell Wilson had a no trade clause. Aaron Rodgers doesn't. It's the brilliance. Russell realized, I'm always going to make money and I'm always going to win games. The only thing that could puncture that is if I'm traded to a terrible franchise. That's why Seattle didn't get as much back for Russell Wilson as many suspected he was worth. Why? Because Russell gave them a team they had to trade him to, Denver. That was his first, second, and third choice, therefore limiting the Seahawks. For the average person, take the money. For stars in any industry, seek freedom and the ability to control where you can be sent or where you can go. Dear Colin, the NFL draft doesn't have a lot of juice this year. Does that change your interest level in it? It doesn't. It will change the average fan's interest in it. Their interest, the ratings won't be as high as last year because there aren't star quarterbacks. But I'm interested in the architecture of the football team, the building of it. So the players are mostly irrelevant to me when it comes to the draft. It's almost like the beach. The beach makes me happy. I like to go to the beach. Not every day, not every week, but in the summer, I like to go to the beach. I don't have levels of happiness when I'm at the beach. Newport Beach makes me happier than Huntington Beach, not as happy as Manhattan Beach, not nearly as happy as Malibu. A beach is a beach. I'm always happy. A draft is a draft. I'm always satisfied. I like the process of the draft. I like how teams are built. That part fascinates me. It doesn't really matter who the players are. I've said this before about college sports. Alabama fills its stadium regardless of who the quarterback is. The key is the coach in college. If the coach is bad and Alabama had 5 straight losing seasons, the seats are empty. When they're winning and have the right coach, the players become less relevant. Same with Kansas basketball. They always fill their arena. Always. It's about the coach. When they have Roy Williams or Bill Self, they win a bunch of games, they're sellouts. If they whiffed on a coach and had 5 straight losing seasons, you'd have empty seats. College sports has been about the brand. It's about the coach. The players are less important. Not that they don't have the right to transfer. I'm for it. Or name, image, likeness, make money. Professional sports is different. I'm watching for the athlete because they're the best of the best. In college and in the draft, it's the structure of it. It's the brands that pull me in. Dear Colin, what do you say to the Russell Westbrook supporters who still stand by him, even despite clear erosion and a disastrous season? Listen, there's 3 types of people. People that get stuff immediately, people that get stuff eventually, and people that never get stuff. Listen, if you still think Trump won the election, keep it to yourself. It's embarrassing. I mean, I understand if you had questions for a week or two, but at this point, you're Looney Tunes. Like, with Westbrook. I immediately thought he was talented, but didn't make players better. There's other people who thought the same thing, and it took time to see that his ball-centric, tunnel vision style was problematic. If you still are a Westbrook fan and are still defending him, you just don't get it. If you look at the great point guards in the history of basketball, Magic, John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas, Steph Curry, go down the line. They have two qualities. One, and this is usually the top quality, they make everybody better they play with through distribution. Or two, they're great shooters. Steve Nash, Steph Curry. Westbrook's neither. If you still are clinging to Westbrook, you're in the third group. You don't get it initially, you didn't get it eventually, and you're just the guy who never gets it, ever. Dear Colin, why are the Dodgers and Rams succeeding and the Lakers are crumbling? Well, the truth is, market size is mostly irrelevant. I mean, the Jets and the Giants are awful. So are the Knicks. So are the Mets. Look in Chicago. Most of those teams, underwhelming. When's the last time the Bears truly had their act together? It feels like the Bulls have been promising, but disappointing at the end of a year for a decade or more. Look at Dallas, Cowboys, Mavericks. Not a lot of titles in the last 20 years. The truth is, market size is overrated. The exception is Los Angeles, not because it's a big city, but it's the entertainment capital of North America. And as sports and entertainment are connecting, it's very attractive to professional athletes who now have production companies, podcast companies, and the like. But even in Los Angeles, the Lakers are crumbling because they're poorly owned and poorly run. And the Lakers and the Rams and Dodgers are succeeding because they're well owned and smartly run. Market size has been overrated for years because players now can live anywhere and make a fortune. They can live in OKC. They can live in Phoenix. Patrick Mahomes can be in Kansas City. A lot of people in smaller markets fear the money and the power of the big markets. And in baseball, that's somewhat true. But in the NFL, NBA, MLS, and hockey, your owner and your front office and a good coach are going to dictate success. There's nothing to be afraid of. Dear Colin, what'd you make of the T-Wolves? All that celebrating after just winning a play-in game. Listen, I'm not anti-celebration, okay? But in my life, and I'm now like mid-50s, right? In my life, there has been a general theme from people. The people who love celebrating tend to let it skew things going forward. My take's always been celebrate briefly, grind regularly. It's a mindset. I got nothing against celebrating, but I've worked with people my entire career. They get a good ratings book, they make a little money, and they become hangover Harry. Like, there's nothing wrong with celebrating. Johnny Manziel, though, big celebrator. Cam Newton, big celebrator. Diva wide receivers, big celebrators. It's just not my thing. And I'm not just talking sports. Look in your family. Look with people you've worked with. You should, when you succeed, be happy and reward yourself. But the personalities in my life that live for the celebration, over-celebrate, usually the following year, they're not the same employee. The following week, month, they're not the same employee. Like Cam Newton is the greatest example. Dude, it's a touchdown. Since high school, you've scored hundreds. I don't need a performance. I'm not against it, but the argument can be made, oh, look, Minnesota, they don't win much. Yeah, maybe part of it is they don't know how to act when they do. Dear Colin, what do you make of this week, the Cincinnati Reds president, Phil Castellini, telling his fans the only way for a team to succeed would be to pick it up and move it somewhere else because of the current baseball economy? Well, first of all, that's a pretty harsh blow to fans, and the Reds will probably never be moved because the first baseball team ever, I believe, is the Cincinnati Red Stockings. You can look it up. I think I'm right. They mean something to the history of baseball. But the reality of what he is saying is you better be patient here, folks, because with the economics of baseball exploding and with Fox Sports regional cable networks now in the hands of another network and not as lucrative, it is harder now than 5 years ago for small market teams like Seattle, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cincinnati. People often say, but, look at the Tampa Rays. Now, let's talk about the Tampa Rays. They're a better story than a reality. Now, there's always exceptions to everything, and they are, considering the payroll, the best of that 7 or 8 team group. But since 2008, when they lost to the Phillies in the World Series, they've only been back one time in 14 years. Other than that, they miss the playoffs or get knocked out early. I mean, even when they win games, they get outpaced by the Red Sox and Yankees, who have more money. In 2018, they won 90 games. The Red Sox won 108. The Yankees won 100. Last year, they won 100 regular season games. They lost to the Red Sox in the American League Divisional Series. So that's the great example of the ceiling for what he's talking about. Something that's not talked about, when Fox owned all these regional networks, they really helped the smaller market teams. They generated real revenue. Kansas City, Mariners, Pirates, A's. Those got sold off. They're not as lucrative now. And the smaller market teams are privately complaining to baseball they can no longer compete.